My name is Alyssa Russo, and I am proud to serve as the president of Jewish National Fund's Central New Jersey Board and as a Sapphire Society, President Society, and Century Council member. And I am newly the National McCore Muss Chair. So it's the first time I'm saying that as one of my roles with JNF, and that makes me very proud. And forgive me, this is Jersey Girl joining us so that she doesn't bark during the program. It is particularly special to be with you tonight as a proud parent of an AMHSI alumni, my daughter Emma, who attended school in Israel in 2019 and had a life-changing experience in Israel. I'd also like to thank our committee members for tonight's event: Shari Berman, Sarah and Mitchell Schwatt, Jordana Horn-Gordon, John Gordon, Jonathan Mell, and Alyssa and Saul Sutton. Thank you all for your hard work and dedication to JNF and to Alexander Muss High School in Israel. Tonight, we are going to enjoy an exclusive update on Alexander Muss High School in Israel, why it is the premier study abroad program in Israel, and we'll hear directly from alumni from right here in New Jersey about how this experience changed their lives. Please note that participants have been muted automatically by the host for the duration of the program, and questions can be chatted to Leor Sinai or Anna Milstein. And note, the program will be recorded if you experience any technical issues. Now it's my privilege to introduce you to a unique and dynamic Jewish leader. He is a dedicated Zionist who lets his actions speak louder than words. He made Aliyah with his family to support Israel from within. He is an inspired and inspiring rabbi who spent a year in Israel during college, where he worked on building networks of socially conscious Jews, and then received his ordination as a rabbi from the Jewish Theological Seminary. And he is a top-notch educator who works enthusiastically to support and energize the only non-denominational, pluralistic English language semester abroad academic experience in Israel for high school students. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chief Institutional Advancement Officer of the Alexander Muss High School in Israel, Rabbi Leor Sinai.
Thank you, Alyssa. It's so good to see you, and so good to see you all. I don't know if it's good morning or good night here in Israel. It's just about 2 a.m. Here, and I guess it's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time by you. If and when possible, for all of our guests who've joined us, I'd love to see your faces. If you can turn your video on. If you're busy and you can't, I totally understand. We're all on so many Zoom calls these days. And so sometimes we just have to put our video cameras off, which is understandable. But thank God for Zoom, and thank God for technology, because otherwise, what would we do? So this is just one of the modes of communication and engagement that we have available. And I have to tell you that ever since, we'll call it the Ides of March, literally March 15th, which is when we chartered our flight, the plane that returned our students from Israel to their homes, 250 students. Some people call it Operation Entebbe 2. I called it just, let's get the kids home operation, and we did it. And that was March 15th, the Ides of March, literally that day. That was a Sunday at 11 p.m., where myself and some of our staff, we escorted several buses of students to Ben Gurion Airport. It was one of the more devastating points of our personal and professional lives, certainly devastating for all of our students. Many tears out there. Students prefer to stay in Israel and get corona than have to go back home. I mean, not that they disliked their homes, but they certainly did have, even in the span of a month, right? They came for a 4-month experience over a spring semester, but even within a month's time, that magic that we all know Israel impacts us with, right? We all know what it feels like to land in Israel. The air, we breathe differently, right? We walk around, we feel differently, right? We celebrate holidays differently. That experience within itself had such an impact on our students, even after a month. And I have to tell you that all those same students who we're still in touch with are anxiously looking forward to coming back. We're trying to figure out how and in what capacity they can return to our program, given the fact that they only got a quarter of their full semester experience. So we're going to figure that out. I have to tell you that for me, being a part of what we do here at the Alexander Muss High School in Israel is a merit, is a blessing. Some people ask me, how's work doing? Or I remember last week I had a call with a donor who was also a friend, and he says, let's not talk about work. How are you doing personally? And I said, I have to tell you personally, this is what I do. I mean, this is my life. What we do for a living, what you call work, is our personal business. We care about what we do here. We are part and parcel of our students' experience. And not having our students on campus over the last 6 or so months was one of the more challenging aspects of our work, because we deal with human capacity. For those of all of you who are alumni and who have visited Israel on campus, you know what it's like to have a lively campus, students coming and going, learning, conversations, discussions, football tosses, frisbees, barbecues, all the events that we put, and all of a sudden we're on campus and it's quiet. It was very, very difficult. But what I can tell you is how proud we are of the fact that we were able to flip over our program virtually within a matter of 24 hours. Over the last 6 months since the Ides of March, we impacted thousands of students and adults, where we provided educational services to congregational schools, day schools, camps, JCCs, virtual missions, JNF missions, other organizations that hired our teachers as their virtual guides for their communities' missions. And so the impact continued, definitely there. But what's happening now is nothing short of a miracle. The fact that we currently have students on campus. In fact, we're the only teen immersive program in Israel that's open for business, right? Other than the Masa gap year programs, the yeshivot in Jerusalem, which are all college age and above, we're the only high school program in Israel that's in business. So I don't say that as a judgment on other programs that, for whatever reason, decided to or couldn't open up. But what I do say is that there's what to be proud of, and why not? We made every effort to train our teachers, to prepare our campus facilities, to go through conduct policies. What does it mean now to be under quarantine? How are we going to ensure the safety and the health of our students were they to come to Israel? And so within a matter of months, we put our program together, conversations with parents. I have to tell you that for whatever reason, call it because it's quarantine and our students wanted to get out of the house, or just call it the fact that youth wanted to come to Israel, we had a wait list for this current fall semester. That's how much our children, our youth, want to come and spend time in Israel. We're right now at a point where we have 100 students on campus. Last year, this time, we had over 400 students on campus. In fact, last year was a record number of student enrollment, over 1,300 students all throughout the year here in Israel, having the most transformative experience. And you'll hear soon from our alumni who will talk a little bit about what that transformation was like. So to say that now we're here where we have 100 students on campus, where they're quarantined and in capsules, their well-being, I can tell you, is certainly a high, the top priority of our faculty, our deans, and our staff. Their spirits themselves, and we're visiting, and I'm visiting our students every day throughout the dormitories, is simply, I'm inspired by our students. The fact that they're here and they're having such an experience, and they're happy to be here, even knowing that they would have to quarantine for 2 weeks. And I went to the airport last week. Every day we had another group of students arriving. So I went out to the airport to greet them and to kind of welcome them and ease them into this new world that they were entering. And when I asked them, I said, you knew you were going to spend 2 weeks in quarantine, and yet you still came. Why? And these kids are like, because there's no one else I want to be. I want to be here. And it's fine. And we'll get to, and they were like, making me feel better about the whole situation, because I felt kind of uneasy about it. But nonetheless, they came in. And I have to tell you, when we treat our children as adults, they respond in kind. When we treat them as kids, they act like kids. We all know that. But when we treat them as adults, and that's what we do here on campus, we treat our students as adults. We hold them accountable for their activities, for their actions. They have responsibilities that they carry upon themselves as well. I just have to tell you that, as I said earlier, it's simply miraculous to see these students here on campus. One other little bit I want to share, and then we'll go into a quick 40-second video I want to share with you about what quarantine life looks like, is that in June, we began to get a lot of requests from alumni and others who asked about GAP programs. Now, we have thought about GAP programs, but we figured we'd give it 3 to 4 years to develop, do some market research, like you would for any major program, right? Before you put out a product, you got to do your research. You got to make sure that there's a market for it. And so we found out that the numbers are skyrocketing in terms of college students applying for GAP programs in Israel. And we thought, you know what? Where there's a challenge, there's an opportunity. That's the Jewish way. We don't give up. You don't let us in through the door, we're going to come in through the window. And so we figured here's an opportunity for us to try to put together what could be a phenomenal GAP program. 4 or 5 of our educators got together within a span of 2-3 weeks. We put together a skeleton of a program. We applied to MASA, M-A-S-A. MASA in Hebrew means journey, and MASA is the umbrella organization that's supported by the government of Israel as well, that provides GAP program opportunities to students who are in college who want to spend a semester or a year here in Israel. We applied to them to be officially approved as a GAP program provider, and we got accepted. In fact, they accepted us with open arms. They know what we're all about. AMHSI has been around for 48 years. We're going to be celebrating 50-year anniversary in 2022. So we've been around. Anyone who's in the Jewish world of education, Zionist world of education, knows that our alumni come out on the other end of our programs well prepared, more knowledgeable, more inspired, more excited than most students who don't have such an experience. So they know what we're all about. So they welcomed us. And as a result of which, we now have a pilot GAP program on campus as well. 23 college students from universities spanning Princeton, George Washington University, Clemson University, from across the United States are now here on campus in their 2-week quarantine in their separate dormitory. So there's a dormitory that's been relegated to our GAP programs participants, and then there's a dormitory, the rest of the dormitories are for our high school students. So I'm going to ask my colleague Melissa, who's on your end of the world, to press play on the 40-second quarantine video, which gives you just a little taste of what life is like today here on campus.
In your capsules right now, you do not have to wear masks.
And go. Shabbat Shalom.
Wow. Not only is this a dream come true, we're actually doing it. And what you saw was just a 40-second taste of what life is like in the quarantine and how we set up these capsules, right? But we maintain their engagement, right? We're bringing our students together where they're having activities, exercises, aerobics, games, programming, evening programs. And even with those capsules where you saw the plastic sheets separating the capsules, they're still getting together there, listening to music, dancing, playing card games. You know, they're putting gloves on, and under the curtain of the see-through plastic, they're flipping cards, you know, underneath it. So, you know, we all have the ability to navigate complexities, and so do our children. As much as we like to hover around them, hug them, and keep them warm and close to us, when we let them get out there and taste a little bit of independence and have the capacity to overcome challenges, let me tell you, they do it. We have to trust our kids the same way our parents trusted us, or at least attempted to, that they'll get by and they'll make do with what is available. And that's what we're seeing on campus, is that our students are not only getting by, they're actually enjoying themselves even while they're in quarantine. So that's just a little taste. And in a week from today, next Wednesday, will be the final 2-week quarantine period where it's going to be wrapped up. And we're actually going to have like a big Exodus barbecue where we're going to tear down the plastic separations. We're going to have a huge barbecue on campus, American-style barbecue, hot dogs, burgers, and such. And it's going to be phenomenal. And then, God willing, from there on, Israel becomes the classroom. In fact, the next day they start on their tiyul, and they'll be heading up north and beginning to study history chronologically as we do it. Funny point to make when people ask me, what's your educational philosophy? Like, why is AMHSI so impactful? Like, how do your students leave you with so much knowledge and information? I say, hold on to your chairs, ladies and gentlemen. We teach history chronologically, right? Why do I say that? Because most programs that come to Israel, whether it's a 10-day trip, whether it's a 2-week trip, often you're going to study Israel geographically. You're going to go to the north and you're going to cover everything that happened up in the north, right? Whether it's ancient history all the way through the Six-Day War, Yom Kippur War, and so on. And if you're going to go to Jerusalem, you're going to cover everything that happened in Jerusalem, right? But because of the amount of time that we spend here in Israel on our programs, whether it's a 2-month program, a 6-week program, a 4-month program, we have the bandwidth and the space to cover history chronologically. So we'll go up and down and zigzag around the country. We'll go to Jerusalem, not once, not twice, maybe even 3 times, based on when that happens throughout history. So that's what makes sense. And that's how we do what we do, which is a big, big part of it. We're going to show you just one more video. This is a sample lesson, again, where things happen on site. So now when our students leave, and for those alumni who are with us, you'll certainly connect with what I'm going to say. When our students get out of quarantine, that's when they're going to hit the road. So we're going to play a quick little lesson. This is coming from Jerusalem, from Liberty Park, and it's by one of our educators, our Israel Studies teachers, Jacob Leibowitz. So Melissa, when you want to hit play on that, there you go.
Hi everybody, I'm Jacob. Welcome to the Liberty Bell Park in Jerusalem. Before I tell you about this park, I want to mention that for me personally, this park is was a huge staple of my childhood. I grew up in Jerusalem, and this park is smack in the middle of the city. There are, slides here and bike lanes, and there's a skateboard rink here, and even there are basketball courts here, which I'm going to show you because they're right here behind me, right over there. And the basketball courts are actually where I used to play basketball every week. And there's a great street ball tournament here for teenagers that I played in. And this park means a lot to me on a personal level. On a national level, this park means a lot to me as well. This park was built in 1976 to celebrate the 200-year birthday of America's independence. And you can see that behind me is a replica of the Liberty Bell, the one that's in Philadelphia. And this bell was put here to kind of remind us of so many of those qualities and those values that Israel and America share: liberty, human rights, equality, things that are so important now in 2020 to remember. And this park has really symbolized that. If you come here on any day, you can see Arab children, Jewish children playing together, respecting each other, whether it's basketball or in the playgrounds. And again, it's right here in the middle of Jerusalem, this controversial city, and it's so beautiful and amazing to see how those values come to shape the park and shape our reality. Another really important part of this park is that it's actually the starting point of the Jerusalem Pride Parade, and it has been since 2004. And the Jerusalem Pride Parade is yet another reminder of how a holy city can mean many things, right? To Jews, to Christians, to Arabs, to Muslims. But it especially means that, holiness, and we believe this definitely at our school, and in Judaism, holiness means accepting other people for who they are. And, starting a gay pride parade here in Jerusalem is something that's very meaningful to a lot of Israelis. And the fact that it can start here at this very point really symbolizes what this park was supposed to be about. So thank you. And on your next trip to Israel, please come and visit the Liberty Bell Park and enjoy it.
Fantastic. So that's just one. And by the way, if you'd like to take a moment after or some other time, you can check out our YouTube page, Alexander Muss High School YouTube page, where we have a whole slew of on-site learning opportunities and travel that our teachers have provided. 2-minute clips covering the entirety of Israel, all the areas from the north, south, Caesarea, the Arava, Jerusalem, of course, and so on and so forth. One of the most important things that are happening today aside from Corona, of course, but really, really shouldn't occupy too much of our time. One of our priorities today is education. I would even argue that education is the greatest cause of our time today. Let's not lose sight of life before Corona and what were our concerns on college campuses today in the US and in Europe, what are concerns with the rise of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiments, and the responsibility that we carry upon ourselves to ensure that our children, our next generation, have the knowledge and conviction to be able to stand and talk about Israel in all of her complexity. And I say that specifically because we don't shy away from complexity. Because even if with all the complexities that we have throughout our history and here in Israel today, geopolitical complexities, even in Israel, social complexity, who is a Jew, racism. We have racism in Israel just as you have in the States and every other country does. We're no better in terms of that. We have issues we have to deal with. But even with all these complexities, the story of our people, our narrative, the message that resonates from the history of our people that spans 4,000 years outshines and inspires our students and children nonetheless. So our effort is to ensure that no matter what happens, no matter the challenges that come our way, whether it's Corona or an intifada or God forbid anything else that takes place in our world, nonetheless, we're going to maintain our ability to provide the best Israel experience possible. Because having that opportunity to be here in Israel, to walk in the footsteps of our ancestors, to have that level, that experiential learning opportunity is a whole other ball game. It's a whole other level versus sitting in the classroom and having to engage with your teacher, somewhere else around the world and trying to absorb that information as a high school kid. I know what I was like in high school, and I couldn't wait to get out of the classroom. I just, it was just who I was. I wanted to go play basketball. I wanted to be out there with my friends. I mean, there's so much capacity. You have to sit there and try to understand, why is my history important to me? But when you're here, and soon you're about to hear from our alumni, but when you're here, it's not just a wisdom, it's not just the knowledge you're trying to engage, it becomes a wisdom of the heart. It's an experience, it's a knowledge that's embedded through an experience you had. It's not just studying about Masada from a textbook, it's going up on top of Masada with your notebooks, and then Masada becomes the classroom, so that the information that you're studying and learning becomes real, and it becomes a part of you. And I can tell you this for a fact because, after all, we've been around for 48 years. And so we have alumni who've come in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, and up until this day. And I'm in touch with them. And they'll all say the same thing. What I learned and experienced during my time in Israel has stayed with me and has shaped my life forever. Whether it was personally, whether it's on college, whether it's in life after college, whether it's who I married one day, whether it's the values I instilled in my own family, whether it's who I am as a professional and how I see the world around me. That's the Muss magic. That's the impact that this program has, and Israel on its own can have on anyone who comes and spends a nice amount of time, a long amount of time here in Israel. So we're going to move forward now. We're going to have our panel discussion, which is very, very exciting for me. We have alumni with us here, and I'm going to be asking just a series of questions. We're going to try to keep it short and sweet so that we can really give an opportunity for everyone to share. I believe we have Alyssa and Saul are here. Alyssa and Saul Sutton are with us.
Yes, we are. Hi there.
Fantastic. And they're an alumni family.
Yes.
Right, where the parents and the children have had this experience in Israel. I can't even imagine what it's like around the dinner table, where you can share memories that you may have had here in Israel. Who else do we have? Is that Mia?
Yeah.
Hey, Mia, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I mean, your mom was sitting there, so I was going to say something happened there. But how's everything? Good.
Everything's good. How
Awesome.
are you?
I'm doing great. We also have Alyssa, who introduced and opened up the program, who's also a parent of an alumna, right? Alyssa Russo. And we have, is Kayla with us? Kayla Schwat? Oh, hey, Kayla, how are you? Fantastic. And we have Aiden Berman as well, right? Very nice. And your mom is with us too. So another alumni parent there that we have. Hi, Shari. Did I miss anyone who's not an alumnus or an alumni here? I can't see everybody.
Yes, you missed us.
Oh, hey, Jonathan, how are you?
And Corey. Corey won too.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
And my younger son went as well, but he's at college right now.
Where's he going?
Tulane University. It's actually open.
Fantastic.
New
Oh,
Orleans.
nice. Fantastic. Did I miss anyone else? Yes. Wait, turn your microphone on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. No, I'm Saul's brother, Stephen Sutton. I went as well.
Oh, fantastic. Did I know? I don't know if I knew that. That's awesome. So it's really a family business by you guys. That's fantastic. That's awesome. Okay. So I just did get a question, and before we go into the alumni, is there a college credit that's offered to our Frontier Israel Gap program? So right now there isn't, but we do have a relationship with the University of Miami that provides college credits. Because of the short amount of time, we couldn't get it connected, but I have to tell you that our students were fine just with that as well, and we're happy to be here in Israel anyway. But this is our pilot program. As we move forward, our expectation is that we will be able to offer college credits as well to our students. So we're going to jump into this alumni panel discussion, and I have a few questions that we've prepared for our older alumni as well as for our younger alumni, because I would imagine that the experiences may be different. So
Take it I'm an older alumni.
No, you're the younger one. I was going to ask you. I
think I was there in 82. That makes me old.
Really? 82. Okay, well, I don't know. Saul, what year were you?
We were 86.
Okay, and
I'm
Steve,
so old.
right?
Alan was my teacher. That was before.
Alan was my teacher too.
Alan Odess. Yeah, he retired a couple of years ago. Great guy. So for our alumni, for our older alumni, I'll ask this to Jonathan, and then to Saul, and then to Steve. Right? It was Steve. Yeah. So let's start with you, Jonathan. Let me ask you, what is your greatest HSI memory and why?
Wow, that's a good one. Basically, the intellectual stimulation that came to me as a then 16, turning 17-year-old to learn about the history and why it was so important that not only were we learning, and as you mentioned before, being there while we're learning, but to have instilled in me that we have a tradition, and this is something that we need to pass on to our children. And even if you're not religious, but to recognize that we have a history as a people, and there's a reason that we have survived as a people when lots of other ancient peoples have not survived. And that is something that we have to have a continuity of.
Very nice, very nice. You learned a lot.
Alan was a good teacher.
Alan's a great teacher. Legendary. Before I go to another older alumni or alumnus, I want to first jump to a younger alumnus. So let's go. Let's start with you, Aiden. Why did you decide to go to AMHSI?
One of my mom's best friend from college's son was actually going to go on the trip, and he wanted to know if I would be his roommate, and that was really one of the first times I heard of the program. We ended up going separately, but the second I researched it, I realized it's what I wanted to do.
And why?
I personally love to travel, so being able to see a new country, experience a new culture, and also just meet many amazing people, it just really prompted me to want to sign up. Fantastic,
fantastic. All right, we're going to jump to an older alumnus and alumna, Alyssa and Saul Sutton. I see Alyssa now is back with us there. Did your experience at AMHSI affect the way you raised your kids, the values you instilled in your home? And if so, I'm imagining it may have. How?
Okay, I guess I'll take it. Yeah, no, that definitely did. Being that we both were there, we both have the similar value system, I think that we took from the program. I know that was my first time in Israel, so I fell in love with it at that moment through the program. So I just now instill that in my children, both Ellie and Mia, who both went, and just we need to share in the continuity of the love of Israel and bringing young Jewish kids there and just having them experience it so that they can pass it down to their kids. It's just, the circle of life.
So from generation, the whole concept of generation to generation, right, which is an important value in Jewish tradition, right? We actually read that, or some of us do, every day when we say the Shema, right? The mission statement of the Jewish people, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. In that accompanying paragraph, there's a sentence there, V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam, and you should teach your children, right? This is in the Torah. It's in the book of Deuteronomy where we're told you should teach your children, right? Teach them of our history, teach them of our ways. It's a whole concept of from generation to generation, which is very, very important. So while we're with the Sutton family, let's jump to Mia and ask you, let me ask you, Mia, what was your greatest takeaway of spending time here in Israel with us on our program?
My greatest takeaway was probably the friendships I made that I brought back to America with me, and definitely seeing all of Israel was so amazing, and I'll always remember those memories with my friends there. So
are you going to come back?
Definitely come back. I went back already. The roots.
That's right. But you're going to come back again. It's not enough. When you're in college, maybe you'll come to our Frontier Gap program. We'll see. We have time. All right. And then so let's stay in the Sutton family. Let's jump to Steve, who's an older alumnus. Steve, what year did you go?
1988.
1988. So let me ask you, what were some of the values that you learned about during your time that stayed with you throughout your life, that helped shape some of the decisions you may have made in your lifetime?
Well, I think it definitely instilled my Judaism even stronger. I think we had a good foundation growing up pretty well. This was something that really instilled with me wanting to promote that going forward through my life, having a Jewish family, things like that. But I think the one thing that really, I would say most important from the program was I went from being a kind of a kid who really didn't care about learning to somebody who really loved learning at that point. And it actually taught me how to learn.
That's amazing. And by the way, I hear that from a lot of our alumni who say, I never enjoyed sitting in the classroom. And here in Israel, I'm sitting in the classroom and I'm really into it. And they'll say they enjoyed it, but they'll also add that they learned how to learn, right? Sometimes we're in school and no one ever taught it. Okay, first grade, here you go. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, wait, 1 + 1 and that's it, right? But how to learn, that's very important skill set as well. And that's great. And I hear that a lot from our students who will say, I wasn't a good student back home, and here I got a 3.5 GPA. And by the way, I went back home and I became a better student back home as well, which is great. And I always try to point that out is the experience is not just about Jewish identity and such, but of course there's that added piece about how to navigate life, how to be the best version of yourself, which is something that we point out here. I always say, don't be like anyone else. Everyone else is taken. Be yourself. That's very important. So Kayla's with us as well, who's an alumna. Kayla, what year were you with us?
19.
2019?
Spring semester 2019.
Oh, okay. So before this year. Okay, great. Let me ask you, if you had to choose one moment that was your aha moment, that when it's like it clicked, you got it, you're like, okay, I get it. Maybe there wasn't such a moment, then that's okay too. But if there was one, what would it be?
An aha moment
in Israel on our program, a defining moment.
I think it was way before Independence Day, but being there surrounded by all these other fellow Jews and all the different programs that were there all at the same time, just celebrating the beautiful country together and just being able to have this shared connection was just so powerful and so amazing and fun to be able to just look around and feel the love.
being a part of something, a community. You're not alone in this, right? So I can imagine, and we have many parents here, so, but I can imagine that all the parents here also probably witnessed growth of their own children, right? You witness your own kids leave one way and come back to Israel being totally different, right? So time is kind of running out here with the panel, but maybe Alyssa, if I can ask you real quick, Alyssa Russo was also a parent. You know, what is one thing that you may have noticed from when your daughter got back from Israel back home?
Well, it's you know, I was thinking about it as I'm listening to everybody speak, and you know, clearly just the maturity and the sense of self that she came home with was so special. But you know, I'm even thinking about this crazy time we're living through, and she's applying for colleges as a senior, and she reached out to an Alexander Muss teacher for a reference letter. And, you know, everybody's so busy. I know she's having issues at the local high school with what they're dealing with. And she came downstairs with the biggest smile because the teacher responded quickly and generously and communicated with her. And, you know, it just goes beyond, it's still happening. You know, so she's not there now, but everything she experienced is with her and it's continuing to be with her. And I just thought it was amazing because the smile she came down with when the teacher responded and now they're communicating and she's writing her a reference letter was just so special.
Right. Absolutely. And that's a great, you know, segment to what I wanted to say now. I mentioned before, education is the greatest cause of our time today. Education, knowledge is power. My philosophy is that anti-Semitism rises when we're uneducated, when we don't know. When we're not there to stand up and talk back and speak up with conviction and passion. And that, I believe it has everything to do with education because I see our students and what happens when they leave. It's the most important cause of our time and the highest priority for global Jewry is educating our youth. And I say this as the lead fundraiser as well for the high school in Israel. When I'm out there and I'm soliciting, and today often it's on Zoom, of course, and thank God there are still people out there who understand the need and are still able to give whatever they can, because every dollar counts, of course. You know, we cannot let finances be an obstacle to any high school kid who wants to have an experience like this. Because as Alyssa just mentioned, and to all the parents here, and you all know what it was like for your child to get back, this is an investment of a lifetime, right? If you have to choose between leasing a car that you really want or investing in your child's education and character for the rest of his or her life, right? We're gonna go with the latter. And this is that kind of an investment. It's an investment that stays for the entirety of your life. We know this because I'm hearing from all the parents who they themselves here are alumni as well. This is an investment of a lifetime. And right now, following Corona and all the challenges we've had, we had a big payout and reimbursements that we have to provide to families north of $1.5 million. There's a whole other slew of things that we've dealt with, and we've been chasing our budgetary needs, of course, and the deficit that we got because of this. And thank God there is a response, right? Foundations may be able to give some, maybe they couldn't give as much as they have in the past. Donors that would like to give more but are giving less now, but are still giving. And so I want to ask everyone on this call as well to consider taking part in our Muss Fund campaign right now. I can tell you that every dollar we raise right now, we have a matching grant, gets doubled, gets matched for our scholarship fund, for our operating needs. People are giving, knowing that the investment they're making will be matched and doubled. So for everyone out there to consider joining our efforts, you see the impact that we're having. You see the kids that we currently have on campus. There's a cost to it. Obviously, there's a cost to it. But as we just said, there cannot be a situation where finances are a challenge to our program operating and providing for our youth. So I want to really try to get everyone involved. Let me just also tell you, we have 20 virtual parlor meetings like this one here set up around the country in cities around the country where our goals are $10,000 to $20,000, which is a nice number to consider. It's not a $1 million gift that we love to get, but nonetheless, it's about everyone giving and doing what they can. And when everyone comes together as a community across the United States and does what they can, we're going to reach our goals. So please consider what you can do to support our efforts to make sure that we're able to continue to do what we do. And let me add just one more thing. It's now 2:40 in the morning here in Israel. If you know anybody who cares about Israel, who cares about education, who cares about our children, and who cares about the future of U.S. Jewry, that's where we are. We are concerned about U.S. Jewry, ensuring that there is a strong Jewish community in the United States of America for many, many years to come. Anyone who cares and wants to learn more about what we're doing about that, I would be happy to speak with anyone at any time or day or night. As you can see, I'm up to speak with you all. I'm happy to speak to anyone who's interested, who wants to learn more, who wants to be involved, and may want to consider investing in our future through the Alexander Muss High School in Israel. So please take me up on my offer. I'm happy to speak with anyone. If there's a foundation that you know about, I'm happy to speak to that foundation and provide any kind of proposal and information they may ask about. So really, thank you all very, very much for having me. I know Anna is going to wrap things up for us, but I just want to thank you for believing in us as well. I want to wish you and your families a Shana Tova U'Metuka. We're heading to the year 5781. The Jewish people are strong. Am Yisrael Chai. We're back home 72 years later. We lead the world in so many areas. There's so much to be proud of. And if our children aren't proud of who they are, it's not their fault. It's because we never told them. So here's an opportunity to share our story with them, right? Teach your children, send them to us. We're here, we're happy to welcome them. And together we're gonna make this happen. So Shana Tova U'Metuka to you all, lots of health and light for the year to come.
Thank you so much, Leor, for inspiring us and joining us at 2 a.m. from Israel. I don't know how you do it. And really thank you to all of our incredible alumni and parents for participating and sharing your meaningful experiences that you had at Alexander Muss High School in Israel. My name is Anna Milstein, and I'm really proud to serve as the Associate Director for Jewish National Fund here in New Jersey. And I'd like to invite all of you to join Jewish National Fund's virtual national conference on October 18th to 23rd. It's going to be an incredible opportunity to learn how Jewish National Fund is impacting Israel's present and future through programs including Alexander Muss, all from the comfort of your own home. It's only $50, and you can enjoy a weeks-long programming all week during the end of October. So I invite you to join us for that inspirational program. Finally, I'd like to thank those of you who have already supported Alexander Muss High School in Israel. I know many of you on this call have been so generous to Alexander Muss, particularly during this time. And your support, as Leor said, is truly critical to ensuring the future of Zionist education. I invite all of you to take the opportunity, make an impact for the future of our Jewish people, and donate today by using the link that was posted in the chat. As a reminder, our goal tonight is $10,000. So with all of your help, we know that we can reach that goal. We are encouraging all families to make a minimum gift of $500 to help us reach that. And you should feel very excited knowing that all gifts made tonight are matched dollar for dollar. So your impact is going twice as far for our youth. Thank you again so much, everyone, for joining us. You're more than welcome to contact me to learn how to get involved with Alexander Muss High School or Jewish National Fund. And I wish you all a good evening and a Shana Tova.